Grief is not a problem to solve. Grief is the natural human response to loss. So the goal of grief coaching is not to eliminate grief. It's not to fix grief. It's definitely not to rush anyone towards feeling better. It's not to get you to some sort of mythical finish line called acceptance. None of that. What grief coaching does is it helps widows better understand their experience and navigate it with more skill and less unnecessary suffering. Most of us were taught very, very little about how to work with our emotions. Most of us were never taught how the brain works, especially in grief. And we weren't taught about post-traumatic growth. We weren't taught about how to rebuild a life after something as devastating as losing our person. So when we find ourselves in grief, it's no wonder that people feel like they're doing it wrong. They feel stuck. They feel overwhelmed. They feel like they should be further along. And even after they get through the worst of it, most of them get to what I call a grief plateau, and they kind of get stuck there, which means it's not as terrible as it once was. They're functioning. If they want to be back to work, they are. People are telling them how great they're doing and how strong they are. But on the inside, they don't feel great and they don't feel strong and they aren't loving life. They're tolerating it. They're surviving it, but they aren't loving it. And they don't know what to do about that. And it's hard to imagine how they could love life again without their person. So a lot of what I do is help widows understand that nothing has gone wrong when they feel all of these wild feelings, when they are having all of these very normal, common experiences in grief, while also giving them tools that make grief easier to carry so that we can work on loving life again. And the first thing that I usually help widows with is allowing emotions. And this is a really big one. Most of us grew up with very little good emotional role modeling. We were taught that feelings are problems. We were taught that the goal of life is only to be happy, and that if we're sad or angry or disappointed or scared or anything else that isn't happy, we need to fix that, right? If you're sad, focus on the good times. If you're disappointed, count your blessings. If you're scared, be strong. If you're angry, let it go. If you're going to cry, I'll give you something to cry about, right? So when all of the emotions of grief show up and they feel overwhelming, we don't know how to deal with them effectively. And our instinct is to fight them, to distract ourselves, to stay busy, hoping that time will take them away, to numb out, to wish them away, to maybe to hold them in or ignore them. And some of that might help temporarily, but none of it really helps in the long run. And this is often how we end up turning to wine and food and busyness and scrolling social media and addictive behaviors that take us out of the feelings because nobody taught us how to allow them. And we cope the best we can, but sometimes those coping mechanisms then get in the way and prevent us from living life and from loving it. So I want widows to understand that emotions aren't dangerous. They're uncomfortable, but they're not dangerous. And I want widows to understand that they can get confidence around feelings, that the worst thing that can happen is a feeling. And so what I teach is how to allow emotions instead of resisting them, instead of reacting to them, instead of trying to avoid them. When we're resisting them and reacting to them and avoiding them, they just stick around longer. When we allow them, they move. The energy can shift. They can be processed. They can be released. And then we don't need to distract ourselves or hide or use food or substances to get away from them because we feel confident in our ability to feel them. And that's a really powerful thing, confidence around feelings.